So now it's a matter of him feeling like he can get into game shape. Once you actually get out there and play 5-on-5 and simulate a game, it's much different than doing conditioning on a machine or all that kind of stuff. I've been through that many times, and he knows it's the same. So he's trying to grind up to get to a position where he can play a full game.
Andrew, you played for a lot of different coaches. What makes Steve Kerr different? What separates him from other guys you played for?
I don't think he's afraid of doing different things at times. Whether his rotation is X, Y, Z, he's not afraid to go A, B, C. And there's a lot of coaches that get in their own way a lot. Whereas he'll randomly put in a guy in the starting lineup that hasn't started all year. Like we saw that with JB this last playoff series. Myself coming in from Australia, and first game back he starts me. Like, he's not afraid to do that. When a coach has that confidence in guys, especially on the bench, it's great. And he thinks outside the box. I think himself and his staff and the things they look at. You'd argue that when this all started, it wasn't traditional basketball with the way our lineups were and how small we went at times. So he's definitely changed the game.
Steve's open to other people's opinions or observations. A guy like that, he'll take input from everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And that's you kind of have to be like that these days. With kind of crop of kids coming through, they obviously want to get their point of view across and feel like they're being heard, even if they're not. That's very important these days. It's almost as important as coaching is that psychological, off the court culture type stuff. And Steve's one of the most approachable head coaches I've been around. Sometimes he'll take input, and sometimes he won't, but he'll always listen, and that's very, very important.
Andrew, how has Klay sort of evolved defensively? I mean, you were here obviously a few years ago. He's always been known as a good defender, but maybe how is he different now than he was here?
Just experience. I think he's an all-league defender. He does a great job. Really taking the challenge personally. It's very rare for a shooter. You don't often see shooters like him that can defend. You just don't. It just doesn't happen. And he's one of the few that can run off screens, knock down threes, can get hot and ISO himself. But he takes that other end very, very personally. And a lot of times, we have him mixed matching with Andre on their best player, and I think it takes a toll. Especially, we saw in that Portland series. I think it took a toll over the course of the series. Those guys were either seeing Andre or Klay. It's not easy.
It seems like against Lillard, he's going against a smaller guard. It seems like Klay's size and length really bothers smaller guards, as good as they are.
Yeah, it is, and we figured that out early in my time here with the Clippers. We started putting Klay on Chris Paul back when the Clippers had their half decent team, Yeah, I mean, he generally we used to start, just traditional stuff but once we started putting Klay on Chris, we noticed, Chris didn't like that, and it really worked out well for us. And then ever since then, we haven't been afraid to put Klay on bigger guards or bigger forwards at times and smaller guards. And he's one of the most valuable guys in this league, in my opinion, because he plays both ends of the floor.
You guys have been trapped. What are the keys to trapping successfully?
I'm mixing it up. So you don't want to have a steady diet of one thing. I think that Portland series is one of the best kind of rounds of coaching I've seen from Steve, and that I've been a part of. The way he mixed up lineups, he was open to input. We were changing up when we were blitzing at times. Like sometimes we would just blitz it straight away. Sometimes we'd switch with Leonard and Lillard, and then run off Leonard late. So we did a great job mixing it up. I think any team in this league gets a steady diet of something, especially with days to prepare. They'll punish you. But I think the reason why we were so successful against Portland is we kept changing things up. Even though at the end of the day it still was a blitz, we were changing when we were doing it, for how long we were doing it. Sometimes we blitzed until the pass out. Sometimes we blitzed till he took one back step and then we left. So I think that's really annoying if you're a guy like Lillard or McCollum, because you don't know when to find your rhythm.
Quinn Cook's legs gets along with everyone. How important is it having a guy like that on your bench? Having your bench filled with guys?
I think Quinn's a prime example of that bench. I think we have a lot of guys like that. I think guys that understand their role. I think for a lot of other teams in the league, Quinn's probably a 20-minute off the bench player. And there's at times for us where he doesn't play. That's just the reality of the situation here with the championship winning team. But you couldn't really tell on a daily basis that he hasn't played the night before, or whether he's played 20 minutes. And I think that's a sign of a really good teammate. You know, he seems like an ambassador for the whole league. He knows, kind of knows everybody. He's played against everybody at some point. He's been to numerous guys' camps when he was a young fella. So he's a great guy to have in the locker room.
He looks at Jarrett Jack as kind of a mentor. Do you see any similarities between him and Jarrett? They're from the same area.
A little bit. I mean, Jarrett was very similar. They're very open. They can have a laugh as well and joke around. And you know, Jarrett Jack's one of my favorite teammates. You know, looking back, you know, he was an awesome veteran to have around us, and his journey has been a pretty impressive journey with what he's had to deal with. So it's no surprise that Quinn's very similar.
There seems to be a bit of a national narrative. The Eastern teams will be a difficult matchup for you guys. What's your reaction to that?
Well, if we don't play with a basketball, it could be called soccer. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the don'ts and the do's, and that. I think this team, even when I was here the last time, we've dealt with that kind of stuff all the time, and we're not really too worried about it. Injuries happen. Obviously, Marcus fully healthy, but they're not at the moment, and we have to make adjustments, and it's by association. All the media stuff. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. You know, I guess they have to, you know, especially on ESPN, they have to have something to talk about. But the fact that they're talking about his free agency and all that kind of stuff, it's just a distraction for our fans and for our franchise that we don't need. So as far as the locker room, we don't discuss it. We know it's by association, but you know, I guess some journalists will have that story ready that already they can't win without KD, and some journalists will have that story ready saying, oh, they play better without KD. So flip a coin and we'll see what happens at the end of the series.
You seem to have had answers up till now for whoever's hurt, right?
We have. There have been adjustment periods. Obviously, Steph, you know, had an adjustment period in the Houston series, but battled through and was phenomenal in the last couple of games. But there are different ways we play with different guys in the lineup. You know, obviously with KD in there, we want to make sure we get him the ball in isolation situations as much as possible because he's so deadly. But with him out of the lineup, the ball's moving a little bit more and Draymond's pushing. So we're comfortable playing both ways, and in my opinion, there's ebbs and flows within a game that you need to play different styles.
And you have to adapt further depending on the opponent, I presume, right?
Exactly, yeah, and it's a big difference. You know,
Those are both longer than Portland.
Milwaukee play a very similar pace to us right now. Toronto play a very similar pace to when we have KD going ISO and that. So it's kind of similar in a way. We feel like we can match up both ways, and that's the beauty of our team. We can grind it out on the half court if we have to, but we can also, you know, run and gun with the best of them.
And what have you been doing to kill all this time between the
I've got 2 kids, so that answers your question. Not a whole lot. You get home and then you look at the clock and it's 8 o'clock at night, you know, and yeah, that's basically it really. Just trying to help the wife as much as I can when I get home, and just being around the kids while I'm home. So probably some of the single guys will be a little bit bored, but yeah, with kids, it's 2 kids under 2 or 1 just over 2. It's there's not a whole lot of time for relaxation.
Are you keeping an eye on what's going on in the other one? Or
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no other basketball on anyway, so we'll watch it tonight. It's been an entertaining series. You know, it's been a prime example of a conference finals, how it should be, where there's swings and flows, and it feels like the series has turned 2 or 3 times, and depending on what happens tonight, it could turn back again. Just what I have been since I got here. Just whether it's 1 minute or no minutes or 10 minutes, just play to the best of my ability as hard as I can, and just be a good voice on the bench. You know, I'm just kind of trying to be a second coach out there, making sure that our bench guys know what's going on and how we're doing this on this coverage, how we made an adjustment, and just trying to talk. You know, I feel like I see the game in a pretty decent way, and just trying to be a good teammate at the end of the day. You know, there's going to be times in this series where I might not play, and there's going to be times where I do. Just make sure I do what I can.
Knowing what it's like to raise a championship, and catching yourself in injury,
Yes and no. So we won the first one, and then the second one, where we were trying to go back to back, we probably caught ourselves maybe doing that a little bit, and it hurt us. So, you know, you can always look to the future, but I think right now we want to focus on getting 4 more wins, and then we can talk about all that.
Hey, Andrew, you talked about how you contribute